86 went down to Adelaide Crows 17-12, 114 in the opening game to kick off Gather Round, the third edition of Gather Round. We've been unlucky having to draw Adelaide on 2 occasions over there in South Australia. Goal kickers for Carlton, 2 goals to Mitch McGovern, 2 goals to Ben Ainsworth, singles all to Francis Evans, Ollie Hollins, Adam Chera, Elijah Hollins and Harry Mackay. Matt Carroll, Ollie Florent and Zach Williams also got on the scoreboard too. But Woody, it was a decent start given the lead up to the game and the week that the Blues have had. What did you make of the opening term?
I thought the game was on our terms for a majority of the game, to be honest. I actually thought we really controlled the territory game for a lot of certain periods. In that first quarter, I mean, we kicked, 7 goals very quickly. And that's, I think, I always go back to when Charlie Curnow was interviewed after the West Coast game last year over in WA. And he sort of alluded to the fact that we can play this really quick, exciting brand of football that the forwards love being a part of because it's so good to play in. And then we park the bus and we just don't, something changes and sometimes it's not just generally tactical coaching, but sometimes we just can't move the footy as normally as we did. We played probably some of the best footy we've played all year in that first quarter.
Oh, 100%. So you look at that first quarter, we kicked 3 early goals from stoppages. So that's our bread and butter, kicking it from stoppages. When we were 13 points up, I had a look at the stats and we'd had 30 handballs to their 8. So that was a clear sign and a clear intent that we were going to run the ball and just run them off their feet, which we were doing well. And then you look at the first quarter from Sam Walsh, 15 disposals, 4 kicks. Okay, probably would have liked that to be up around 7 or 8, 11 handballs. But he was just absolutely all over them in that first quarter.
I don't mind the handball game because our biggest problem is with the Blues is that I feel like we don't link up and get in the chain of handballs.
No, and I agree. And hence why I spotted that high ratio of handball that we had, especially early part of that first quarter, where our intent was to run the ball. And given that they'd changed up the midfield mix with the dropping of reigning best and fairest George Hewitt, which I know you've got some strong views on that. I've got some strong views on that. And I think last night sort of vindicated the decision to drop him because we actually did look like a much sleeker side and a much faster side. And I know there was a bit of conjecture around that because he was an emergency and the weather was inclement for a lot of that afternoon and obviously stages throughout that game. So Hewitt may have been a factor in the wet, but I think from an overall team balance point of view, our midfield looked a lot better.
I think that's pretty fair. I think the mix last night was good in patches. But again, it's that 10 minutes and that even that clearance work. There was a stoppage. I think we kicked a goal in the last quarter. It might have put us down within 3 goals. Ollie Hollins kicks that goal. Then the next clearance, the next ball up, bang, clearance out of the middle, Adelaide getting inside 50. They're my concerns when you got guys, when you don't have people with the experience like George Hewitt that are in there that can control that sort of situation, which I think he does quite well around the stoppages and around the clearance work. But I think the selection of dropping George Hewitt was really wrong last night. Poor.
Well, I think, look, the balance needed to be changed up. Now, to play Chera, Hewitt and Cripps all at the same time in that midfield was making us too slow and too cumbersome and way too predictable. So heading into this game, you had to make a decision. Either Chera goes, Cripps goes, or Hewitt goes. Now, they brought Chera back. Now, this is a totally separate issue, but they brought Chera straight back in the side to play North Melbourne last week, which I thought, give him a run in the VFL. Why is he guaranteed a walk-up start in the seniors playing in the VFL? But that's beside the point. So then you got either Cripps or Hewitt. Now, at this point in time, I don't think it's beneficial to drop your captain. So, unfortunately, the next cab off the rank and the next victim has to be George Hewitt. Now, I would love George Hewitt to be able to play a role on the side. As I said last week, I think his role on the side going forward is a run with role. Maybe you got Dacos next week. Can he run with Dacos? Potentially. But I don't think he can be actually a stay-at-home, centre bounce attendee and being in the guts for us because we just get too exposed.
Yeah, I know. Look, I understand your point of view. I just don't know what the solution is to try and get some more. I don't quite think Zach Williams is. I mean, I thought Zach was okay last night, but I don't know if he's quite the option. I mean, look.
Well, I would have liked him to give Elijah Hollins a run through there. See what he can do. Ben Ainsworth. I know Ben Ainsworth.
I've been big on. Yeah, Ben Ainsworth definitely. I think Ben Ainsworth cuts the lines really well.
And I don't think he's got the tank to do it for an entire quarter, but put him in there for a 10-minute spurt.
No, I think so. I think he actually cuts the lines. He's changing directions. He's trying to. He's leading for the footy. He's quite strong. I think he's been a really good acquisition, Ben Ainsworth. To be honest, if I'm being,
I think so. And
unreasonable.
And when you're looking for a spark and you're looking for something to really get the team going, okay, you use a Zach Williams, you throw in an Elijah Hollins, maybe even a Taylor Byrne for a centre bounce or two.
Yes.
And then we move on to Jagger Smith. So with you,
or even I'll give you another name, Flynn Young. Give him a game.
Well, Flynn Young is, the mystery at the moment. How he cannot get a game with the side and the form it's in is preposterous.
It's crazy stuff.
I don't understand that, but we'll get onto that a little bit later on because I want to get onto the start of the second quarter. Now, that's that you referenced it before. It's that 10-minute patch where the game was essentially lost. We're 7 points up at quarter time. We've played probably the best quarter of football we've played in over a year under Michael Voss. And what does Michael Voss do? Now, I know we can have a debate whether it's player-led or coach-led, but this is purely and simply on the coach. He takes the can for this, starting Patrick Cripps on the bench at a crucial point in the game was the ultimate mistake. And this is essentially going to force Michael Voss to pack his bags. And this is going to be the end of him, unfortunately, because that was a poor decision in a string of poor decisions that this coach has made over a 5-year sample period.
And the fact Sam Walsh started up forward was mind-boggling too. He just had the best quarter he's ever had for a long time. Like he was running on top of the ground, looked fantastic. And he started up forward. I couldn't understand the method behind the madness there. I agree with you.
So that second term when Cripps on the bench, we concede 3 goals to Adelaide. They keep the opening 3 goals that quarter, and we're 5-zip in centre clearances. So that tells you everything you need to know. The game done and dusted by the 10-minute mark of the second.
And it's an insult to a champion. Like you're watching Cripps on the bench and his restraint was good. I've got a really big bugbear, and I've got a big bugbear across the competition on this. How can a senior coach from the boundary line? I don't understand. I understand Fagan coaches from the boundary line. I understand that Simon Goodwin used to do it. I understand Craig McRae does it. I just don't understand how at that in the AFL, when it's such a high-pressured environment, when you've got other assistants that are so influential to the lines and the decision-making and all that sort of stuff, you've got Voss there half the time without the cans on, without the communication device on, standing there, body language poor. Last week, I thought the body language of Voss at the back end of that North Melbourne game was more supporter-like. And that was always Brett Ratton's biggest criticism when he was coaching. He became a supporter and not a coach. And that's irrespective of what's going on or tactically and all that sort of stuff. It's just the optics of it. And I just would like to see, get in the box, Bossy. Get in the box.
I'm with you on this. And in the Carlton group that I'm in, there's a number of Carlton supporters. They're very vocal on this as well, where Michael Voss, we know he's not a tactician. Like, okay, you can park that to one side. He's not a tactician. And you can sort of accept that if you've got others in the box who are driving that. So then Michael Voss's role as a senior coach primarily needs to be there as a chief motivator, someone who can really extract the best out of his team on a game day. So when he's situated down at ground level, what you're hoping to see is players come to the bench and be given direction and be given some motivation from Michael Voss. But as you mentioned, time and time again, they cut to Michael Voss on the bench and he just has his blank expression on his face. And as a player, I mentioned this during the preseason or early in the season, as a player, if you're coming to the bench and you're seeing that body language from your coach, how is that going to inspire you and drive you to go back out on the field and give 110%? I mean, I know you're going to have your inner motivation, but just that language and that energy coming from the coach is, in my opinion, energy sucking.
And the other thing as well, when you've done your 6 or 8 minutes, you come up for a blow. The last thing you want is someone in your ear or talking to you straight away. Like I'm not suggesting that Voss, go straight away, but like when you come up for a spell or rotation, you just want a bit of quiet time for a second to get your thoughts, then get back out there and get into it. So I just think there's a whole lot of optics thing that they've just got to massage over as well. Look, unfortunately for Michael Voss, and I'm always big on this, the support, when you lose the members first, supporters second, because there's a big difference between the two. I think that gets lost in the AFL community. When you lose the members and the supporters, which is what's happened to Vossi, you might as well make a decision now. And there's a lot of, I listened to Chris Davies last night on ABC. I thought what he had to say was pretty interesting.
It was eye-opening, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's alluding to the fact that he's not going to be there next year. So
correct.
Why make the decision in a few weeks' time? Just if you're not going to re-sign him, do everyone a favour.
So I think so. My theory behind this has been Graham Wright. He's probably been well aware since the middle of last year when he took over from Brian Cook that Michael Voss was never going to be our senior coach in 2027, bar a miracle. But I think his thinking is that given the personnel we lost last year and how we were tracking performance-wise for 2026, putting a new senior coach in this year to pretty much be the leader in a down season was not going to work for that senior coach. It doesn't matter who it is. A new senior coach coming in this year with the performances that we've currently dished up, we've got to put them on a hiding to nothing. So I think it was better to go into this season with Michael Voss. Obviously, the performances were going to track the way they've been tracking. Voss either gets sacked midway through the year or coaches out his contract. Either for me, I probably need to see him removed earlier than later because we need to start planning ahead. And then you get a new coach come in who doesn't have to carry the can for these performances, who can start afresh.
I've got the quote here from the Carlton general manager, Chris Davies, that spoke on ABC Sport last night. And Chris Davies obviously was at Port Adelaide for a long time, where Michael Voss wasn't a senior assistant there for a long time too. And his quote was, and Chris Davies just started over the last 6 months, he's a coach who doesn't have a contract for the following year. The reality is we need our performances to be better right now, and that is what Michael is focused on. Read between the lines to that.
Yeah. And as I said after the Sydney game, there's going to come a tipping point where Michael Voss needs to coach for now, but Carlton need to start planning for the future. So when you get to that crucial tipping point and the club say, hey, look, finals are a foregone conclusion in 2026, we need to start planning for the future. Michael Voss will say, no, but I need to start saving my, coaching to save my job. Then you're like, well, okay, we need to go our separate ways.
And planning for the future, I'm really not interested in people going, I want to finish bottom 2, bottom 3, bottom 4 and all that sort of stuff. We're done with that. Yes, we need the young kids. We need good, young, talented kids. But it's about environment. It's about, Taylor Byrne was taken where, later down the draft order and he's already playing senior footy.
And keep playing. He should. If I see players like Taylor Byrne being scapegoats for these games, which has been a common thread over Michael Voss's time, it's always easy to drop the young players.
Yes.
And if I see that happening, I'm going to lose my mind because we need to be getting Ashton Moyer. Where is he?
Oh, it's doing. And the biggest elephant in the room, we went all in to get the Camperelli twins. And Lucas Camporelli played in the practice matches last year, looked really good, played the first 2 games, looked solid, got 21 disposals, I think, in the first game he played of AFL footy, or 19 disposals. Looked really competent on the wing. Wasn't seen until the last game of the year where he came on as a sub for a
So tell me then how Ollie Hollands at the moment is keeping him out of the side, because I don't think Ollie Hollands is doing enough to justify keeping Camporelli out of the side.
I think he's been a bit better the last couple of weeks, Ollie Hollands. I thought he was okay last night. But again...
I've been very sympathetic to his plight, especially the last 3 or 4 weeks. And his disposal efficiency, which has always been the knock of him, hasn't been that bad and hasn't been that below par. So
all about confidence. And
it's confidence, exactly.
And this is the other thing as well, mate, is that we've got to start winning games of footy. You've got to start winning games of footy.
Well, exactly, because once you win games of footy, it starts to turn.
And listen to what Scott Pendlebury said a few weeks ago about Collingwood, that they get free agents, you go this way, that way, you get people in from different angles, and you're competitive every year and you're a chance every year. Correct. That's how you build development.
And to quote Skyhook's, ego's not a dirty word. Well, I'll tell you what's a dirty word at Collingwood. The word rebuild's a dirty word.
Yeah, well, it's the way to go about it, because the amount of times we've seen the infamous Terry Wallace 5-year plans that just don't go to fruition.
Just before you go ahead, I'll tell you what I thought was insulting. It was absolute garbage, and this is sort of connected to the senior coach in a sense, but Gary Lyon's comments on AFL 360 earlier in the week, I posted these on the socials. You can have a look at them on TikTok and on Instagram at the Heatley Stand. And Gary Lyon essentially said that in this modern age, now that everybody has a microphone and a platform, and they're all having opinions on the coach's tenure and the wider goings on at the football club, that people like you and me and others in the Carlton supporting fraternity who do podcasts, who do YouTubes, who do vlogs, that they should essentially not be listened to. And I think that is a typical old man media take, being very threatened from his legacy media ivory tower on the new up-and-coming way that people consume media, and just denigrating a supporter group who have every right to have an opinion, every right to comment on the coach's future, and every right to say what they're saying. And for Gary Lyon, the very man who had Simon Goodwin in an SEN studio 2 years ago and grilled him for 45 minutes on his future, to come out and say, oh, but Carlton, they're going too hard on their coach and they really should be taken no notice of. Gary Lyon, maybe you should have a good hard look at yourself before you have a go at others.
I totally agree with that. And I will toggle on the back of that. Kane Corns had the wheel of blame for Carlton's demise at the moment, and he blamed the supporter base, 4% of the
Have you blamed the supporter base?
Don't blame the supporters. The supporters are the ones that put the money in the don't blame the members, because they're the ones that pay and put money in the coffers. And don't blame the supporters, because they're the people that turn up and actually care.
So tell me, Woody, how can they lay 4% of the blame on supporters? Like, explain to me the rationale behind that.
There is no rationale. And I think the other thing as well, the messaging around Carlton from inside has been terrible. Like the PR, like we should be saying to everybody, right, we've got Jagger, Harry Dean, everyone's forgetting Harry O'Farrell. So you've got O'Farrell and Dean, if they, with a bit of luck, could be our backline spine for 10 years. Because they both have a crack, they both care, and they're both like awesome. They jump at the footy, they try. I mean, Harry Dean's been knocked out in round 3, like his third game. O'Farrell jumps at everything. So you've got those guys, Cooper Lord, which I think will be the next captain of the club at some stage. Hudson O'Keefe, who I thought was really good in a patch last night in a real tough conditions. They're the guys that have got to be. Matty Carroll as well has been really good. There's a good core 6, 7 or 8 blokes there that you need to sell to the members and the supporters and say, right, This is what we're building. We're building around these guys. We are going to continue to work to build the list, but these guys are the reasons why you turn up to the football, because we're excited about where these guys are going to take the club.
Woody, when you talk about messaging out of the club, you know where they've gone this morning?
To the zoo.
Carlton players will visit the Adelaide Zoo to feed the giraffes following their Thursday night game against Adelaide to open gather round. Mitch McGovern will be available to the media alongside Zach Williams, Wade Dirksen and Taylor Byrne. Why the fuck would you be going to the zoo the day after your team is consigned to a 1-win and 4-loss start to the season and you've got Collingwood in 6 days' time? What do you have to gain out of that media opportunity? Please, I do not understand that. Yes, you got your draft there. But what are we doing? What on earth are we doing? It is ridiculous. I'm sorry, but
it's comical, mate. It's a clown show.
If I was in charge of media and comms, now I must say I've got some good dealings with some of the people in that department, others not so much.
I know notoriously you've...
Well, look, I've got good dealings with one half of that media department. The other half has been disparaging towards me, and that's another story for another day. But if I was in charge, I'd be saying, okay, look, this is probably not the right thing to be doing the day after this. I get it. We need to be seen to talk up South Australia and be seen to be doing the PR.
We're all drinking the Kool-Aid, baby. Yeah.
But you know what? The core business should not be feeding giraffes. It should be playing footy. And when you're 6 days out from a Collingwood match where Nick Dacos is going to play his 100th game, I'll be getting on that plane straight back to Melbourne.
What do you think? This guy might be mates with a guy named Pasquale.
Oh, yes. I've heard of that Pasquale guy from a rival podcast. But look, what I want to get at...
I agree with you.
Before we wrap up today, what I want to get at, a couple of more issues, just quick fire. The Haynes insufficient intent. What more could he have done?
Look, the umpiring last night, I mean, umpiring's an hour long. There's a completely different podcast to the umpiring. The umpiring didn't go Carlton's way last night. It was really poor. And I think it was a bit of a square up. Here's a controversial take. The Adelaide Crows have been swindled by the umpiring over the last few years with certain decisions that have been happening. And they got swindled again after the Geelong game. Was it a square up for them?
Well, what about the Rochelle Crow throw? The blatant throw.
Damian.
10 metres out from goal for us, which you pay for a kick. We kick a goal, game on. And they took it back down the other end towards the scoreboard end, and they
I'm putting the question out to our loyal listeners that we love. Was it a square up last night?
Look, I'm not going to go that far because I don't want to be sued by the AFL umpiring department. But
mate, if they want to take my can of Coke, packet of chips, wage, go for it. But no, I'm just putting it out there.
They can go after you all they like, but they're not coming for any of my assets. I'll tell you that.
I know you got a few. Anyway, Nick Haynes as well deserves a shout out too.
Yeah, exactly. The amount of times he went with the flight of the ball and took courageous marks. I think he has been a very, very valuable pickup for us. The other one I want to talk about...
I'd love to meet Nick Haynes because I think he's in the same universe than I am, because he said that his sister had a dream one day that he was going to play for Carlton. So, they had this premonition about he's going to play for Carlton. There was this whole clip about him when he signed up. And when that happened, I thought, this could be an interesting pickup. But he's been really good. So good on you, Haynesy. Well done.
Just one more thing. I want to go back to the coach again. Now, this has to be coaching. Tell me this is not coaching. Every time we play Adelaide, Ben Keys looks like the second coming of Peter Dacos. Josh Rochelle, their mid-sized forwards become unstoppable.
They get the keys to the city.
Do we not have a plan when we play Adelaide to say, hey, look, let's stop these players. Let's actually get goal side of these players, nullify them, lock them down. Instead, we've got Lockie Cowan chasing kicks. And Lockie Cowan's another one. He stunk it up the first part of this season. I think he needs to spend a bit of time in the seconds.
I don't mind. Look, I know what you're saying. Look, his kicking was pretty ordinary last night, and
he ran at 60%. His kicking was shit house.
Yeah,
His kicking was disgraceful.
No, what I'm saying, he's got a big long kick, right? But again, there was a lot of hate. There was a lot of hate last night in that second quarter, and He took a lot of the heat. But
No, but it's not just the second quarter. It's for the first part of this season, the opening 5 games of this season, Lockie Cowan's been disappointing. Now, I understand on one point you want to play the young kids, but in my opinion, he's no longer a young kid.
he might make way next week because you've got Harry Dean that comes back and Wadering that comes back. It was interesting with Wadering. Here's something I would do. We're not in the 4 walls. We've got no idea what's going on, right? We don't know these people. Well, we love these people, but I'm watching Jacob Wadering, and he's been a superstar. He is a star. I love the man. He looks defeated. Spotting language, he looks flat, right? He's getting punched in the head. He's getting knocked out.
How would you feel if you played in that back line?
So what I would suggest, Damian, flip the magnets around, send him to full forward.
No.
Try something different. Why not?
No.
Put Brody Kemp down back. Put Weeders up forward.
Because you saw last week when Wiedering went down early stages of the final quarter, our defensive structure just fell to pieces.
I understand that, but sometimes you've got to look after him and change things up and say to him, mate, Collingwood, big game, 80,000, go and kick it back. Go kick 3 or 4 or 5 goals. Go and let's just try something different. Why not? He might. I know Bolton tried in his second year, but sometimes you've got to try different things.
He's one to leave you with a Brownlow medalist from the 1980s. That's as far as I'll go. I won't divulge what year or who they are.
I reckon I might know who you're talking about. Yep.
Potentially, but we'll leave it at that. They suggested to me yesterday that talks are already underway with Patrick Cripps' management and West Coast.
I have heard that from another person that we might know that was a superstar forward in the 90s.
So if they are on the money,
I've known.
This Brownlow medalist who has his ear to the ground to a lot of goings on in Western Australia, if he is somewhere close to the mark, what would a fair price for Patrick Cripps be?
I don't even want to think about it because it makes me sick because he's like a brother. But
would you accept a future first rounder for him?
No, it's definitely first round pick. He's 2-time Brownlow medalist.
Would you accept? Would a second round?
Nah, you're not balking, Damian. You're not balking, mate.
But at the age of 31, with probably
doesn't matter. This guy's the champion.
Yes, but you have to factor in where he is in his career.
As a club, if they sell him for peanuts as a club, what's the incentive? Like,
well, no, I'm not saying selling for peanuts, but you're probably going to have to compromise for something less than what we want as a supporter base. But obviously, and I would say a future second round would probably, with a few other bows and whistles sort of involved, but a future second round or a future first round would probably get a job done.
I hope not, because he's a champion. You don't want champions leaving clubs.
This mail might be completely incorrect, but this came from
I think, Damian, your mail is always pretty bang on, and I want to make a big shout out to our friends that listen. A lot of what happened at the back end of last year, young Damian, he tipped that off in May last year. He knew what was going on. So if you want all the latest news, breaking news, this is the place for it. Anyway,
I believe you've got a important meeting to attend.
I do, and I believe you do too. I just want to circle back. My comments about the umpiring was obviously tongue-in-cheek. Just wanted to make sure that is. But
and the umpiring department, if you do have an issue with it, don't come after me. Go see Woody and his legal team because I'm having no part in it.
And if you're in Adelaide, go to the zoo. I don't need to because I've got my mate here, but go and see the boys at the zoo.
All right. That's it from now from the Heatley stand. Until next time, go Baggers and go Giraffes.